lots of questions on if I pooped. Did I poop? Did I notice the poop? Did James notice I pooped? Did I feel embarrassed about the poop? Did I feel myself pooping? Hello my sweet friends and welcome back to my channel. I am MarissaLace if you are new here or if you are a returning subscriber, hello. I first want to thank everyone for all of the love on my birth video, on our birth story video. If you are new here, my name is MarissaLace. I create content all around self-love, spirituality, and just tapping into your inner goddess to create your dream life and love yourself deeper unapologetically. And I am currently 11 or 12 days postpartum. I just had our first baby and it has been so funny and beautiful and magical and absolutely wild to document this whole process. So I asked you guys on Instagram to ask me all of your TMI questions about labor and delivery. Labor was something that I was not necessarily scared for, but we can all own and honor that something coming out of our bits that large is absolutely terrifying. So I loved watching these videos when I was pregnant. I loved watching the birth story time videos. I love watching labor videos. I love the Q&As and just really hearing from people, what is it actually like? So I'm going to do my best to be the most honest, the most brutal and blunt that I can be. Let's get right into it. After the epidural, did you have to have a catheter put in? So if you guys have not watched my birth story or the labor and delivery video, I will link them both down below, but I actually did not get my epidural until I was, I think, almost at 8 centimeters dilated. So by the time that I got my epidural, they knew that very quickly the baby would be coming. So they actually chose to do a catheter just to drain my bladder. So I forget what it's called, but basically they did a catheter, but then also just took it out. So my bladder was full, they drained my bladder. And then very quickly after that, I think within 30 minutes, I was 2 a 10 and we were ready to start practice pushing. So I didn't have a traditional catheter in the whole time. But also the catheter that they did do, I did not feel. I've seen in other people's birth videos that, you know, they had a faulty epidural or for some reason the epidural wore off. So as much as I did go through my labor very intensely, again, watch the labor and delivery video, and I experienced all of that until 8 centimeters, I'm very grateful because I've seen so many videos and comments about people who say that, you know, they got their epidural around like 3 centimeters and then it wore off, which definitely should not be happening. But yes, I got the catheter. It was totally fine. Did I tear? I did tear technically. It did not hurt. I did not feel it. Even the pressure that the doctor was talking about, that the nurses were telling me about, I did not feel. Did tear. And tearing is something that I was a little bit nervous about because let's be real, you hear tearing and you're downstairs and you're like, that sounds terrifying. So I was really focused on my method of pushing, I could say. And you know, I did the hypnobirthing courses, I did the birthing classes, the whole 9 yards, and all I can say is that pretty much all of that goes out the window the moment that you are feeling these contractions, the moment that you are in the moment and you are trying to remember to breathe, you are trying to remember to be present, and all that I was focusing on was this one way of pushing that I saw, and I described this in the birth story video, but it's like thinking of it in the shape of a J. So instead of thinking about just pushing your baby out, it's imagining that you are having to, like, you know, work your baby under your pelvic bone and then get her out, because our baby is not just like some straight shot out of us. That's like when they say your baby's going in and out before the baby's crowning, then, you know, it's having to go in and out of the pelvic bone. That's what causes like the cone shape in the head, all these things. And so I did tear. It was less than an inch. It was a 1st-degree tear, and my doctor said that we didn't need to stitch it, but she wanted to do it just in case to prevent any like further damage. And I was totally fine. I walked out of that room after my epidural wore off, which I think was like maybe an hour or 2. I didn't really have a lot of swelling. It didn't even burn when I peed, to be honest. And I just feel very grateful and lucky for my postpartum experience, because I've heard some horror stories. And speaking of horror stories, I got asked, did your hemorrhoids get worse with labor? If you guys don't know, my constipation with pregnancy was horrific. The amount of perennium, I think it's perennium, whatever, products that I bought for postpartum, just seeing what this pushing did to my body from the pregnancy constipation, I was like, I am going to have a wild ride. My first poo is going to be traumatic. I'm going to need therapy from that, because I've had it before where like during pregnancy, my perineum, wherever it is down there, that area has gotten swollen, where literally I thought my baby's head was coming out. I was like, my body's in labor, like this is what's happening. The constipation, I've never experienced anything like it. But surprisingly, the hemorrhoids did not get that bad during labor. And I was honestly shocked. And even right now, like they're definitely like a little swollen, let's be real, but that's about it. Lots of questions on if I pooped. Did I poop? Did I notice the poop? Did James notice I pooped? Did I feel embarrassed about the poop? Did I feel myself pooping? Those were all the questions. I did poop. I pooped literally my first push, and I laughed about it. I called it out. I made a joke with the nurse. I made a joke with James. And luckily my partner and I pretty much are very incredibly close. Pregnancy constipation will do that. He has helped me many times in that department. And I just made a joke about it. Literally, these nurses deal and see with these things and much worse things all the time. So on my first push, I did poop, and I was excited about it. I knew that meant that I was pushing correctly, and that was another thing about making sure that I was pushing kind of in my bottom instead of just like directly shooting out, and just trying to like feel anything. And in my birth story, I say how even though I couldn't like feel anything in my downstairs, I could still feel her. I could feel where she was in my body, and that just made me more and more excited and making sure to focus on just wherever she was and moving her down and moving that down. So I did poop. I pooped I think twice, and also that was during the practice pushes, and then also when the doctor was in the room and like the nurses were in the room and everything. This was like almost towards the end. I think right before Lila came, I farted, and I just like, nobody said anything, and I was just like fighting back laughter. I'm like, we can like talk about it. I don't know, when the first push for me to poop, I was like, okay. Luckily it was just James and I and the one nurse in the room, but it was pretty funny. That leads us to our next question. How many people will see my lady bits when I give birth? I want to point out that I did not care about this one bit. Not one bit. Oh. Honey?
Yeah?
You need me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You busy?
No, it's fine. Lila!
White diaper I changed her. She
you
woke
want a
up.
white diaper?
She woke up and said,
I has risen. Hi, Boo. Okay. Break. My sweet friends, we are obviously back. A different day. I looked different, but as we saw from that last clip, I got interrupted for some baby duty, and literally doing baby duty right now. I am pumping as I am filming this, but I wanted to get this video wrapped up and film for you guys and answer some more questions because you guys had some really good ones. So the question that I left off at was how many people are going to be in the room seeing your bits, all of the things. And like I was saying, surprisingly, that is not something that you're thinking of, and something that's not even bothering you. It was all women in the room throughout my whole pregnancy. I don't think I saw one male throughout this whole experience, except one of the doctors, but he did not deliver my baby. And then of course my partner. So trying to remember, oh, and the anesthesiologists were all men. Interesting. Okay, good to know. Oh, get back on there, please. Oh, I leaked on my sweater, and now when my sweater falls down, I feel it. But nurse, there was the nurse who helped me with the practice pushes. There was my doctor, and there was the nurse who basically did Lila's weighing and such after she came out. So there was only 3, maybe 4 people in the room. And yeah, it truly is not something that even crosses your mind, and I just want to be very honest about that, because I think like until we're in the moment, we always hear that and we're like, no, trust me, I'll care. And I'm like, trust me, you won't, but I validate your feeling now. let's see. Gwen says, I'm due October 30th with our first. How has your postpartum bleeding been? I'm nervous about it. I was super nervous for postpartum as well. And I want to talk about this because I was so scared for postpartum. A lot of people very much scared me about postpartum, and it's low-key been the easiest part since. I had very little damage, we can say, in my downstairs. So my bleeding was not that bad. Well, I think I said this too, that I walked out of the room that I delivered in after my epidural wore off in like an hour or two. And so my tearing was not bad, and I very much thank that to my intention and focus on the J pushing that I continuously talk about, as well as, yeah, the bleeding was not bad at all. And honestly, if I were to explain it, it just feels swollen. And I've taken a mirror, of course, and I've looked at my downstairs. She looks the same, if not better. And I think that the reason that that is because there's a lot less swelling. During pregnancy, nobody tells you how swollen your whole body will be. Whole body, you know what I mean? Next question, did any of the protocols for the situation that our world is in get in the way of anything? And honestly, no. Of course, there was only one person allowed with me, and I let that person be my partner, and I would not change a single thing. Ideally, I would have wanted my grandmother there, or even my grandpa being able to like be in and out of the room. And of course, like, we want our family to be able to experience that with us, some of us, and that would have been ideal. But I also know that everything worked out the way it should, and kind of experiencing the birth that I did, how it went, I'm very happy that it was just us. How long after delivery did you go to the bathroom? Okay, so this is another part of postpartum that I was super scared about, the first movement afterwards, and it was easier than when I was pregnant. I suffered with pregnancy constipation so badly, and when I was in the hospital after having the baby, they had me taking MarissaLace and Colax or whatever it is, and then a stool softener and a laxative, and I think I literally went the next morning, I think, and it felt fine. It was so easy. I was so scared, but it was very easy, especially with like the stool. Let's just be like very TMI, girls here. With the stool softener, it makes it so easy. So I wasn't like pushing to go. I just like let my body go and take over, kind of just like with the baby. Truthfully, how did your lady bits feel after the epidural wore off? Surprisingly fine. Surprisingly fine. Like, it literally felt like, oh, just like a little bit swollen, but I wasn't in pain. I was not in pain, and I am just as shocked as everyone else. And I know that everyone has their own experience, but I do want to hold space for like, you very much could be okay, because I feel like I heard so many horror stories, and I want to remind people that that's not everyone's story. So I'm praying that everyone has an experience like mine, because it was truly not that bad. Next, did I get the shakes after labor? I did not get the shakes after labor. I had slight shaking during the practice pushing, which is part of the epidural, which is very normal. I think just with the adrenaline as well as the epidural, all very normal things. I think this one is going to very much surprise people. Did I use a mirror during pushing? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I literally told the nurse even before we started practice pushing, I was like, I don't want to reach down and feel the baby. I don't want to pull the baby out. I don't want to use a mirror. And that was just like not my thing. I wanted to be a little less hands-on during that process, very much less hands-on. I just want to focus on getting the baby out. I didn't want to see anything, because I knew if I saw it, like, some people think it's a miracle and beautiful, but like, I can barely look at my own boobs while they're breastfeeding, or like when I'm self-expressing. I'm just now being able to like look at milk come out of my boobs. So okay, my sweet friends, those are the questions that I'm going to answer. I feel like I covered everyone's fears, and let's be real, we all just want to know about the pooping and the tearing, and I've yet to, you know, be cleared to embark on the journey of what got me pregnant in the first place. So once that happens, I will report back of how that went. But we are here. we are still pumping and we're gonna have a beautiful day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to let me know down below if you have any other questions or how your experience was. Like, am I crazy? Did I have like an actual kind of blessed experience? I have no idea. But I will have linked down below my labor and delivery vlog as well as my birth storytime video, so you guys can get all the tea on that. And now I am going to go moo it up and keep it pumping, keep it moving. I love you guys so much. Bye.